Hi, this is a foreigner living in the Philippines. Really was going to talk about when people talk to me about coming out to the Philippines to live. I don't think of it as just coming out to the Philippines to live. I think about going anywhere to relocate. Somebody said to me that, well, the reason for your happiness is that you have an income. Well, certainly that has a lot to do with it, but I've had an income in quite a few different countries. I've worked in, I've worked in the UK, I've worked in many parts of America, I've worked in Australia, and when I went to Australia I didn't go out there with any great amount of money. I had somewhere to stay, yes, but I wasn't financially secure. Compared to what most people had, I had very little. I went out there and I found a way to make a living. I got a job. Even though it was illegally, I got a job. Well, what I see is that there's an unwillingness to make a mistake. Everybody is just afraid of making a mistake. They don't want to do it wrong. Well, chances are that you are going to do it wrong. Chances are that when you come out here, you'll make some big mistakes. I made some big mistakes when I came out here. I believed in people, and they didn't turn out to be so believable in the end. But this is the point: is that there's nothing wrong with making mistakes. There's nothing wrong with that. Look at it this way. There's an automatic pilot when you go into an aeroplane. Does anybody know? Most people don't know how the autopilot works. They just think of it as autopilot. It just flies the plane, and they think of it no more than that. But the way that the autopilot works is it goes on. Let's say a trajectory, right? And here's the autopilot, and it goes along like this. It goes along. Now when the pilot sets his course, I'm not talking about absolute detail-oriented comparison here. What I'm talking about is just a general idea of how an autopilot works. It goes in a given line until it shows that line is wrong. So here it is, it sets out on a straight line, and then when it realizes that actually it's slightly off course, it sets again. And now it continues on this straight line. And then when that proves and starts to be wrong, it starts again and it changes again. And that's how autopilot works. Well, we work in a similar kind of way. This was written about years and years ago, in a book called Psycho-Cybernetics, and he talks about autopilot there.
Excuse me.
That when you are trying to do something, the chances are that you will do it wrong. Now, it doesn't matter what you do. Almost any activity that you do, you're going to get it wrong. Now, for an artist can be so afraid of getting it wrong that when they look at that blank paper, they daren't put a pencil mark on it. And that prevents them even from starting. Well, when you start to decide to do anything, naturally, you don't want to get it wrong, and yet there is another saying that they used to say, if it's worth doing right. And then one of the great speakers, I think it may have been Dennis Waitley, said, well, if it's worth doing wrong. Because by doing it wrong, you actually find the way to do it right. Now, that brings us into another thing. When you judge, you're being given new information on how to do things. How do you judge whether what you're being told is correct. Well, one of the worst things that you can do is to count yourself as being point zero. Point zero is the point from which everything is judged either right or wrong. If you actually look at the dial on any kind of a meter, it will have a set point. So you have a little trim knob, and that places the needle at set, which is point zero. Then you know that your measurements according to that meter will be correct to that point. Now just imagine that if you are stating that you are point zero, but actually you're not, isn't that a little like having a calculator, and one of those numbers on that calculator is stuck down? So let's say that it's a stuck down 2. Every calculation that you make is based on an incorrect point zero, because it adds or subtracts the number 2. So you add 2 and 2 and 2, and you don't get 6, you get 8. Or you get 4. So you're actually, but you don't know that. Now, I know lots of people who consider that they are point zero. So if you tell them anything, they look at, well, the law according to me says no. So now, not only do they not just disbelieve, they actually disbelieve you. No, that doesn't sound right to me, so therefore it must be wrong. Well, it may well be wrong, it may well not be wrong, but if you are counting yourself on a calculator that has a stuck down number, then you're going to have to face that many of the things that you do wrong are based on just purely a wrong decision. So you have to allow for not being point zero, and then you have a chance to learn everything afresh. So if you get some information, you can look at it, you can take in new information, you can allow yourself to do things wrong because you're not perfect. People would say to me, if I did a really nice job on something, piece of artwork, they say, well, it's perfect. And I say, well, no, it's not actually perfect. Perfect I leave to the divine. I just do my best. And I allow that it will not be perfect. Perfectionism is a whole other subject. And it's a nightmare and a torture for the people who are perfect, because nothing will ever please them. So, if you're finding yourself at point zero, think again. You might learn a lot more if you allow that perhaps the other person is right. So this is a foreigner living in the Philippines. I hope you found this at least helpful, if not educational, and I hope that you will like, subscribe, and share this video. Foreigner living in the Philippines, thanks for looking. Bye for now.